Today I am hiking in the Oquirrh Mountains in Utah. I'm exploring the Yellow Fork Canyon. My goal is to try to make it to Breccia or Breccia, not sure how to pronounce it, knob, but it's already proving a bit challenging as the trails are unmarked and I think I may have already missed a turn I was supposed to take. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a trail marker. It's a piece of plastic vaguely embedded in a tree. I don't know. So it's going to be a bit of an adventure. And meanwhile, I thought it would be fun to talk about my favorite underrated backpacking and camping gear, so let's get into it. First piece of gear I want to talk about is silk thermal layers. One of the basic pieces of backpacking, camping, and hiking knowledge that people should know is merino wool layers are sort of the favored base layer for people to wear if it's colder out. You do not want to be hiking in cotton because cotton gets wet when you sweat, and then when it dries out, it gets cold and it cools your body temperature down. Whereas wool can stay warm even when it's wet, and so it's a very desirable base layer. It's also fairly lightweight for the warmth it provides. It's moisture wicking and it's scent resistant, so wool is just like a really ideal material for your base layer. And I feel like pretty much everyone knows this, but I don't really see people talking about silk as much, and silk is one of my favorite things for backpacking. So the crucial thing with silk is it's extremely warm for its weight. I don't wear it when I'm on the move, so I don't wear it for hiking. Where it really comes in handy is when you're making camp for the night, and so this is good for backpackers, but also just for regular camping. It's so warm to sleep in. It's super light and compact. It's much lighter than your merino wool top. If I'm gonna be backpacking somewhere where it's getting down into the 30s or the 20s at night, I bring one or maybe two merino wool tops and the merino wool leggings as well. But then I'll bring two or sometimes even three silk layers for both the top and the bottom. Cool thing about the silk layers is, first of all, they take up barely any space in your pack because they roll up so compact. They're super light, so it's really not much of an increase in weight in your pack. And it's actually amazing how warm a silk layer is. As soon as you put it on, you feel so much better. Because they're so thin, you can really layer them up. So you can easily layer on two pairs of silk leggings and then put your merino wool leggings on top of it, and that keeps you really nice and warm while you're hanging out at a cold camp and sleeping. You can get these at places like REI or Land's End. One of my favorite tips for buying any kind of gear, but especially these more expensive items like the merino wool and the silk layers, you can actually find these on eBay new, often for 75% or 50% of what they actually sell in the store. So I always look on eBay for these kind of things, and I can usually find good deals. And while I do buy a lot of my clothes, actually probably most of my clothes used, I don't like to buy these used, but what people don't realize is you can actually buy new ones on eBay. So when you do your search, you filter for new, and a lot of times people are selling new with tags ones, either because maybe they got it as a present and they're reselling it, or they bought it and never used it, or it's overstock or something. I'll actually get smart wool leggings for tens of dollars off, which is really cool. Found another one, so it seems this is intentional. I really need to show off my hiking snack today. A friend got me into making bread, and I made this homemade naan. I'm so excited to eat this. My next piece of underrated gear is related, and it's a silk cocoon for your sleeping bag. I'm not sure how many people use these. I always like to bring my silk cocoon. Basically, it's a giant silk sack that goes inside your sleeping bag as a liner. This is another item where, because it's silk, it's super light, and yet it adds a lot of warmth to your sleeping bag for sleeping in cold temperatures. The other thing I like about it as a very sweaty person is it keeps your sleeping bag cleaner because you're not actually in direct contact with your sleeping bag. Next piece of underrated gear for backpacking that I would recommend is earplugs. I feel like this one's really unexpected, especially if you're sort of new to backpacking, because you think oh, I'm going to be out in the wilderness. It's going to be peaceful and quiet. But actually, when you're in the wilderness, you get to really experience nature, and sometimes nature is surprisingly loud. Big one in most places is birds. The birds will get going at 4 a.m., and you may or may not want to actually wake up at that time. But some of the more surprising incidents I've had are one time in the Adirondacks in the summer. It was unbelievable how loud the bullfrogs were. I was camped by a lake, and around twilight, these bullfrogs started going, and it was oh, that's kind of nice. Add some atmosphere. But as the night darkened, there was an ever-increasing bullfrog crescendo. These bullfrogs went at it seriously all night long. If I had not had earplugs, which I specifically remember putting them in because of the bullfrogs that night, I would not have slept at all. I had another loud animals incident in Wind Cave National Park. I was camping there, I think it was in the fall. It was October, I think. The elk were going crazy. They were so loud that they actually woke me up in the middle of the night. And once again, my earplugs came in quite handy. Okay, Okay, I just found a trail marker and I'm actually in the right place, which makes me happy. The next underrated gear item is along related lines, and it's an eye mask for sleeping at night. There are two sources of light you may encounter while backpacking that can sometimes make it not as dark as you thought it might be. If you're in an area that's not that far away from a city, you may still encounter significant light pollution. Light pollution is a big problem. It's increasing every year. It's a huge waste of energy. It harms species like birds and insects, and there's increasing evidence that it's bad for human health as well. Of course, it's super harmful to turtles as well, and is a huge factor in many sea turtle species being endangered. While some nighttime lighting is necessary, there is just so much unnecessary lights that are just proliferating rapidly, and it makes me so angry. Like those horrible light up digital billboards that we now have. Like, can we please stop with the really ugly, unnecessary, wasteful billboards? Such a waste of energy, so bad for wildlife, so ugly for humans. But anyway, until this problem is solved, it's something that you actually may encounter in surprising places. For instance, when I was in the Wee Thump Joshua Tree Wilderness, which was otherwise felt like a pretty remote area, there was no one else around, there was still significant light pollution because it's an hour south of Las Vegas, and as we all know, Las Vegas has terrible, hideous, tasteless lights everywhere. And it was actually astonishing how much the night sky was lit up with no moon, with those lights from Las Vegas in the middle of the night. Like, it was not nighttime there, which is super bad for the species that live there, but it was also unpleasant for my camping. So my eye mask came in very handy and helped me to sleep at night. The other less distressing situation that you may encounter is if you are fortunate enough to actually be in an area that is truly dark, where real night, or at least semi-real night, still exists, you will be surprised how bright the moonlight is. Once you're away from those artificial lights, you're out of the city, the moon shines really brightly. It's so bright that it can cast shadow, and it's actually a really cool experience to get out and see that for the first time. But also, when you are trying to sleep, it can actually wake you up, especially if the moon rises in the middle of the night and then gets brighter, or the path of its light suddenly falls upon your tent in the middle of the night and you're like, wait, why is there a spotlight on me? I'm in the woods. So if I'm in a dark place but I know the moon is going to be out, I always sleep with my eye mask, and it really helps. I have the Sea to Summit eye mask and I absolutely love it. And I actually end up using it even at home because I am kind of sensitive to light. So I never go backpacking or camping without it. This is what I love about Utah. Climb up a little hill and all of a sudden you can see snow-covered mountains in the distance. So on this hike you can quite clearly see the copper mine. Utah is one of the states with the most mining activity. Just found an intriguing piece of blue glass. I'm gonna pack this out with me. I'm not totally sure if I've made it to the destination or not. At this point, the trail has just kind of disappeared into nothing. I've been walking along a ridge. I've been out for a few hours and I think I should probably be getting back. So I guess I'm just gonna turn around without knowing if I've completed this trail or not. The view up here is really amazing, and this was a super fun hike. It started out unpromising, just kind of a slog through the woods, but getting up here was really worth it. It is always a little nerve-wracking to lose the trail, but I've been recording my path on Gaia, and also the mine is very clearly visible from this ridge and I know what direction it came from, so I'm just gonna head back this way and see if I can pick up that trail again. And here we go. It's just a very faint trace, but that's definitely the trail. One thing I like to do when I'm walking on a trail that's kind of hard to find, like it's a very faint trace of a trail, is I actually look up, because a lot of times you're looking down at your feet, try to avoid rocks or tree roots. So I look up and look across the landscape, because when you look across the landscape, your eyes are better able to find the pattern that's like that very faint trace of footsteps where people have gone before. And sometimes I'll just kind of pause and let my eyes scan the landscape, look at almost to the horizon, and sometimes you can find the trail that way. Well, here's a good example. I'm on a rocky hill right now where it's not very obvious where the trail goes immediately, but when I look to the next hill, I can see in the distance that the trail goes there, so that's where I need to head. My final tip speaks to perhaps the grosser side of backpacking and camping. And while it's a tip directed mostly toward women, it's inspired by men. And I feel like this may benefit some men as well. One of my absolute favorite pieces of backpacking gear is an underrated plastic jar with a wide mouth, and it is for peeing in my tent at night. This is something that I'll just go into the grocery store to get, and sometimes I bring it with me, or if I forget, I'll just like go to a grocery store when I arrive in the last civilized spot before my destination and buy a jar that looks like it'll do the job. There are some different products that have been designed to help women with peeing in inconvenient locations, including in the woods. A lot of people really like a absorbent microfiber pee cloth. I haven't really bothered with those. I usually just use a tissue or just don't bother. And then the other thing that I've seen is I've seen either like a thing that you can use as a sort of stand-up device to recreate male anatomy, or there's female urinals, which I feel like is more for like car use. So there's like a funnel and then, you know, a jar that has like a screw top lid. And like, while those are creative product ideas, I feel like they're just so much more complicated than necessary. So I was really annoyed because early on in my backpacking life, and just in general, I usually have to pee in the middle of the night. And early on when I first started backpacking, I would have to get up, get out of my sleeping bag, get out of the tent. It's cold and dark and kind of scary outside in the middle of the night. Like the leaves are rustling. You don't know if there's animals out there. And then I find that the cold really wakes you up, and then it's like hard to get back to sleep. I find it very unpleasant getting out of the tent in the middle of the night. And I was like, I'm really jealous that men can presumably pee in bottles. I don't know how often they actually do this, but I feel like I've seen this represented in popular culture, and why can't I do the same? And then I was like, well, if I find a bottle that's like wide enough, I feel like that would work. And it takes a little practice, but if you find one that's wide enough to like go around the area, it actually works super well. And I know that some people use a Nalgene for this, but I find that Nalgene bottles are really heavy, and also it's like, I don't want to use my water bottle. Like I find it nicer to have like a designated bottle. The ideal one is usually like a mayonnaise jar or a spaghetti sauce jar. Sometimes you can get ones that are like really thin plastic, which is perfect. And like the screw top never comes off. It's fairly lightweight. This basically solves the entire problem because you do not have to get out of your tent in the middle of the night to pee, which is amazing. The one thing that can be a little awkward is if you're with a partner instead of solo. Usually when I'm backpacking, I'm in a tent with my husband. We just have to put up with each other doing gross things on backpacking trips, but it's really not that big of a deal. And solo, of course, like no one cares because no one's with you. This is also really good for car camping, by which I usually mean like actually sleeping in my car in a campground, for which I want to get out in the middle of the night, even less than I do when I'm in the woods in my tent. This solution has turned out to be so convenient for me that I actually also keep a bottle in my car, which has saved me on many an occasion. Never again do I have to drive around like suddenly having to pee, and you know, I'm in the middle of civilization and there's like nowhere. Like sometimes it can be really hard to find a bathroom, and this solution can really save you in emergencies. So that was my underrated backpacking gear for now. I'm sure more will come to mind later, and maybe if people find this video useful, I'll make another one in the future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.